Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Rusong.
Yeah, sorry, that's from my Shambhala Zoom stuff.
That's you can have your Shambhala Zoom stuff.
I could change it. I'm gonna try to change it.
Great. Hello, Valerie.
Hello. Alors attendez.
Hello.
Hey, Linda. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Mommy.
Hello.
Hey, Marty. How are you? Marty, can you hear me? Marty, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Now I can hear you too. Great. Wow, thanks everybody for being prompt and on time. We're expecting a full house, so about 12 people, not including Bernie and I. So let's just take a moment and let people join. Hi, Thomas.
Good morning.
Good morning. You know, Bernie would join at any moment. I wonder if we took a moment to just rename our name and just add where you're calling from. It would be really nice for him to see where everybody's calling from.
How do you do that?
So you right click on your video and you click rename.
Right click.
Yeah, but
Rename. Okay. You want just first name, last name? Doesn't.
Oh,
Whatever name.
first name is good.
Ich glaube schon. Steht ja da schon. Steht der Name schon? Ja, steht irgendwie automatisch.
Should we mute?
Okay. So we have, I see 2, 4, 6, 7 people. Okay. I was able to hear everyone other than Gawaling. Gawaling, can you hear and see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, wonderful. So welcome everyone. Bernie will join us any minute. There's a few more people who will be joining. But I just wanted to maybe just start giving a little technical introduction before we start and before Bernie joins. Has anybody never used Zoom before? It seems like everybody. All right. Here's Bernie. So, so before we jump in, just a little technical notes. I don't know if you're seeing what's called a speaker view or a gallery view. There's a way to see all the people that are joined, or you can see one person who's speaking. So you can change that by clicking on the top right. There's a button that says speaker view and gallery view. You can go back and forth between them. Another thing is that I would like to ask all of us to mute ourselves. And when we want to ask a question or say something, just raise a hand and I'll just call on you. One of the reasons we do this is because it helps Bernie to be able to concentrate on one person and one voice. And last thing is just be aware that Bernie's energy may come and go. So let's just be aware of that. We're looking for an hour of conversation, and I'm pretty sure we will manage that. But if at some point Bernie feels like he needs to step back, I hope you understand. So I see Bernie joined, and he has my name, so I'm going to change that.
We're missing certain people, right?
Right. So we're missing about 5 people. So I was just doing a little introduction, technical introduction, and so now that Bernie joined, before I pass it to him, I'm sure he doesn't need much introduction. But Bernie, I'll just say it quickly. Bernie is the founder of Zen Peacemakers. He is the founder of Grayston in New York, which is a social enterprise that's been celebrated all over the world. He's an award-winning social entrepreneur. And he's also the creator of the Three Tenets. And Three Tenets is really the basis of everything that we do in the Zen Peacemakers. And it's the culmination of his experience of wisdom for the last 60 years. So, Bernie, I will pass it to you. And so thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And thank you, Bernie, for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you.
Let's start with introductions. There's a few more people supposed to. This invitation went to what, about 700 people. That's the members of Hive. But I can only speak to about 12. And we were just sort of having a conversation. How do we do this to allow this to share with 700 people? It's impossible. So we will start anyway. Please, we'll go across the screen and then pick up on the other side. And I just say a little about yourself, who you are.
So Bernie,
Yeah.
would you say the name of the people as you look at them, because we have them in different order?
Jeffrey is.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey Shrelo. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the United States. And I'm so pleased to be able to have the opportunity to speak with you today. I've been so inspired throughout my life by your teachings, and I'm just really, so fortunate to have this opportunity. So thank you.
Okay. And next is Valerie. Could you say a little about yourself? You're in France.
Yes, I'm from France. I am Tenzo in a small sangha. I discovered your work through Michel Dubois, with whom I did a street retreat. And also I read your book, of course, Instruction to a Cook, great inspiration. And I follow everything. And so also very grateful to be here, just be here. Thank you.
Yeah, you know that Michel Dubois is a dominant successor of mine.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
And I was there when you were in Paris 3 years ago. I followed your gathering with Catherine and Michel.
Yeah, that was just before my stroke.
Exactly.
My stroke was about 2 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. Linda, I know, but say who you are. You have to repeat. We didn't hear you.
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, good. Very, very glad to be here. Bernie, it's a real honor to have a private talk with you, or a public private talk with you. And I'm a student of Michel Dubs also, and he's my teacher at the moment. And I've been practicing with the Ocean Zendo in New York for the last over 20 years now. So
Michel Dobbs.
Michel Dubs. Is that different from the other Michel?
The other one is Michel Dubois.
Okay, I thought maybe you were pronouncing his name, because Michel Dubs also a Dharma heir for you.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, we're reading actually Bearing Witness, your book Bearing Witness right now, and very moved by that. And I find the Three Tenets to be ever deeper ground for me, even though it's kind of a free fall to be living and not knowing. I feel like that's the most grounding place for me to rest. So I'm very appreciative of it, although I do have some questions, so I'm looking forward to this discussion. Thank you.
We'll come back to those. Yeah. Okay. Christine.
Hello, Bernie. I'm Christine. I'm from Hamburg, Germany. And my English is not so good, sorry. But I'm glad to meet you.
You said Hamburg.
Once again, please.
You're from Hamburg.
Hamburg, Germany. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I performed as a clown in Hamburg.
Really?
I also as a Zen teacher, but I had a good time being a clown.
That's great.
Marty. Yeah, Marty.
Hi, Bernie. I'm Marty Uram. I live in Atlanta. I attended the Auschwitz-Birkenau retreat last November.
I see.
It was one of the most profound experiences of my life. So I am forever grateful to you for having created that. There was, I don't think, any other way I would have set foot into that environment, absent the context that you created. So I deeply thank you for that.
Yeah. There's a few people sitting in here in this room that they've all been to Auschwitz also, so they know what you mean when you say it's a profound experience. Also for me. Yeah, Thomas. Now we switch to California. Thomas.
Morning. I'm Tomas Phillips and live in Sebastopol, Sonoma County, north of the Bay. I have participated with San Francisco Zen Center in Spirit Rock, which I live near, and I'm a member of a small Zendo in my town called Stone Creek Zendo. I have participated in social action and had many ups and downs with it, and that's what draws me to your teachings. Good to be here with you.
Okay, thank you. And Gowling.
Good morning to everyone.
Where are you?
I'm in Canada.
Canada?
I'm in British Columbia, Canada. I'm the spiritual director of a Buddhist center here. And I have followed your teachings for years and been inspired by them. I've been a political activist and a social justice activist for many, many years. And I'm honored just to learn, listen and learn. And if I have something that I think might be helpful, I'm glad to add.
Great, great. Thank you. Next is Maria.
Hi, good morning. Yes, I'm Maria, and I'm from Northern California. I learned about the Bearing Witness retreat through a podcast by Krishna Das. It's on Spotify, and I was just listening to his podcast, and he talked about it. And one day I just looked it up, and I read the blog, and I just read other pieces of information, and there's just something about it that just really struck me. And so I just sort of kept following that thread, and that really just brings me here today. And I have a practice, a long-time meditator, and use different forms of practice. But anyway, what I saw spoke my language, so here I am. Thank you for the time, the opportunity.
Did you say Ramdas or Krishna Das?
Krishna Das. Yeah.
They're both good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ramdas, I haven't seen for 2 years. Who are on the computer. As I'm sure you already know, Ramdas. He had the same stroke as I had the same stroke as him. His stroke was about 20 years ago now, but unfortunately he got to the hospital maybe 20 hours after stroke, and he still half of him was paralyzed. As you see, I'm not half paralyzed. Anyway, so we do talk until I can. He's in Hawaii, and Massachusetts is a far distance. Yeah. Now, Linda, you say you had some things you wanted to say. Usually I just go around again, but I'm gonna ask you to raise your hand. So first I'll start with Linda, because she mentioned she had something she wanted to say.
Bernie?
Yeah.
May I just suggest, before we start, could you just say a bit about the Three Tenets? I wonder if some people may not have never heard of them before. It would be just nice to bring them back.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Three Tenets. By the way, Rami directly works for me, and in fact, he's probably my last Dharma successor. He's not a Dharma successor yet, but someday. We gotta get there before I die. Do you remember when I introduced the Three Tenets?
So I heard a story from you and Eve that there was a talk in Germany in the 90s, mid-90s.
Mid-90s.
That you spoke about the three of them, but they weren't called that way. They weren't called Three Tenets. They weren't a method. They weren't a thing. And there were different names. You called them unknowing, and you had other names for them. And it took several years after that, where at some point you started to speak about them as the Three Tenets.
Yeah. In reality, the word Three Tenets has been around since then, but it's not like I thought of something new. I just rephrased something that's been around a long, long time. So it was easier to remember in my rephrasing. The three tenets, the first is not known. Now, that's not anything to do really with knowing and not. But the first not knowing is emptiness, is being totally attuned to what is happening, but not having any other ideas about it or thoughts about it. So it's not knowing is, if you know it's in script, it's Shunyata, or not knowing, but meaning not putting any label to what you're perceiving. Not easy to do. Usually something happens and we label it, we put a label on it. Very difficult to just let it happen without putting a label. The second tenet is bearing witness. And by that I mean she's trying to adjust my camera. Don't worry. Do it even though I'm saying it. The camera's at not a great angle for you, but what can I do? I studied Zen from a Japanese teacher, and so I had a lot of Japanese words. Bearing witness, I learned it as shikantaza. Shikantaza is Japanese. Shikan means just. Ta is a syllable that means that what is before and after it should be emphasized. Shikanta. And za is sitting. So normally we would say just zazen, but it really has this emphatic word ta. So it's that kind of emphatic. That's just listening, just. So I made it very simple. I called it bearing witness. There are other bearing witnesses. They're a little different. In my case, bearing witness is to just be totally into what's happening. And then what was a little, what my teacher didn't teach is a third tenet, and that is actions, to act from the position of not knowing and bearing witness. That is, don't just sit in when I first started, the practice was focused on just being, but not doing social action. Somebody you said talking about social. In my youth, I also was. I've been involved in social action from very early age. I'm almost 80, so I've been in social action a long time, and I didn't want the practice to stop. I'm just sitting. I want you to be doing. I want us to be doing things, and so that's the third tenet. And I put those two together and called them the Three Tenets. And you said somewhere in the 1990s, something like that. And so it's just been that's a while. That's what happens when you get to be old. I think it gets to be around there for a while. And so that's been a while. And somehow it has caught on. The Three Tenets have become used not just in one particular form of Zen, but not even one form of spirituality. The Three Tenets are in the world of social action, in the world of medicine, many, many worlds. Because when you think of it, it's so simple. First, what you're doing, what you're seeing, don't put a label on it. Try to just see it as it is. We have a few different countries here. So each country has a different language or different word. But forget about the label. Just try to grasp things as they are. And then stay with that. Bear witness to that. And then do the action that comes out of those. So it's very simple. So therefore, maybe because it's so simple, it's been around for a while, since the 90s. But being around for a while doesn't mean that that it's really that simple to practice. So we have forms of practice for not knowing, bearing witness, and for doing actions. Okay, so that's a little digression, and important digression, to say what the Three Tenets are. And before I go further, any questions about the Three Tenets? In fact, we consider them quite important. And so the Zen Peacemakers, Zen Peacemaker International, we explain, because we are international, Zen Peacemaker International is based on the Three Tenets. And that's enough, but I happen to think there's more to it than that. Okay, now we go back to Linda with her questions.
I think that I've been just tossing around lately when I present the Three Tenets to someone who's not grounded in practice or in Zen practice, or has no practice of using precepts, or what I think of when I, just somebody asked me what my Zen practice is about. In a quick summary, I might say, well, it's reverent, not knowing. So, but I like adding the word reverence to it, because I think sometimes if you describe the three tenets to someone who's not grounded in practice, I just wonder if the action comes out of that open heart, as opposed to the very conditioned, opinionated heart of, prejudice or, anyway, of that. Having been earlier in my life, caught up in very dogmatic social action that caused great harm. I guess I am, that's sort of my question. That's my question. I don't know if that's clear enough, or anyway, I'll let it stand there. If you want me to say more, I can keep blithering on, but I'm not sure. It has something to do with I guess, the morality of, or the precepts as guidance, has really allowed the combination of long periods of Zazen and the precepts, I feel, has softened my heart a great deal and allowed me to be open without that sort of self-centered container so present all the time. And so I have more faith that my action arises from that place, I say. And I guess in some ways you have to have faith in not knowing. I have faith in not knowing, but anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so you raised, there's a couple of points I want to talk about. First is the word practice. Comes. I know your teachers. Linda studied under my first successor. His name is Peter Matheson, and he passed away about 5 years, something like that, 4 or 5 years. Quite a man. Mm. He lived for a while in Paris, and we met every day at the bookshop. Because of the stroke, my words don't come so easy. But the books, so it's called who is the one from Paris? What's the book's name?
The bookstore name.
Une librairie? In a librairie? In a bookstore? The name of the bookstore?
Yeah.
In French, it's called librairie.
It's on the scene. And anyway, he is a wonderful man. But in the beginning, we use the word practice as a word for Zen meditation, for Zazen. I have used the word practice as all of life. I don't want to focus it only on as a meditation, and therefore the word practice is a way of life. And how do you shift from thinking that the deal is all about what goes on in your meditation to life itself? And I think that's very important, that all of our actions, these should be our form of practice. And they're not practice, they're it. They're it. So that was one important thing. Other thing I forgot already. What was the second thing that I wanted to say? Do you know what I want to say?
It might have had something to do with my question about having faith that the action that arises out of bearing witness is not coming from a very, well, in my former case was a very conditioned, dogmatic mind, of opinion. And, I was very contracted into a lot of opinions about right and wrong and what was, who should be in control.
Yeah, and we skipped to precepts and
precepts.
things like that. Precepts fit into action, the third tenet. Because if you can say that everything as it is practice and all, then how do you make precepts? How do you say what's right, what's wrong? And that comes out of we do that. We do work on we study precepts. We do that kind of thing. But we try to do that from this basis of not knowing and bring witness. It's not easy. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's easy, but we're trying to see everything from that status. And the precepts will change depending on the culture you're in. It's anyway. If we had time to be going into all these, I call them nuances, but they're not nuances. That's what takes all these years of practice, all these nuances. The other thing that I think is important I feel that everything I say, including what we're saying right now, is just an opinion that I don't know, at least I don't know any truths. I don't know. You may have some things that you say, well, those are definitely truths. For me, they're all opinions. And I think if we can see everything that I say and everything that people are saying as opinions, my life is so much easier. Somebody could say something that's so profound, and I will say, oh, that's an interesting opinion. There's nothing so profound that it can't be shown not to be true. I don't use the word truth. I don't use the word lie. I have opinions. And doesn't mean I don't have opinions. I do. I have a lot of opinions. But if something changes, I change with them. What I don't have is truths. I can't, anything I can say to you, you please don't take it as some kind of truth. That's just what I'm thinking right now. That's my idea, my opinion right now. Having said that, that's all it is, man. That's all it is. But I think we still have all time.
It's about 10 after.
Yeah.
20, you have 20 minutes.
I still have time. So
I saw Jeffrey raise his hand.
Huh?
I saw Jeffrey raise his hand, and I see Thomas also.
We had this hand first. Tom's hands first. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I lose the names of people disappear, and I can't remember. But we got the names now. Tom. Thomas.
Yes, hi, Bernie. My experience in social action is that it always generates controversy. For instance, the little Sangha I'm in a little town in Northern California, homeless people started camping on the grounds. They started defecating in the garden. Neighbors complained. They left lots of trash there. And eventually the Sangha told the people they had to move. It was a very conflicted situation, and my experience in social action is always that it generates conflict. So I wanted to ask your suggestions on how to deal with that.
Yeah. You know, I've done a lot of work among the homeless. And during the Second World War, you know how they were loading people up in box cars and shipping them to concentration camps. And then every once in a while, they'd stop the train, let the people out, and people could go shitting where they stopped, instead of just going in the bucket in the train. And the people that lived in that area saw them and said, see, they're just animals. They're just going to the bathroom wherever they are. So, in some sense, that continues on now. That is, we look at the homeless, what the homeless people are doing, and we compare them to the affluent. Why can't those homeless people act like the other people? We're not living at the situation those homeless people have been put into. And it's not easy to get people to change their mind. They're looking at them and saying they had dirty clothes. They're asking me for money. Why are they doing that? So I'm not sure I'm answering any questions, but because we make the situation such for people, and they're going to get a lot of bad remarks. And they're going to ask us, why are they doing that? Why? Look at the situation we put them in. So I thank you for working this, because because you're working with those, with homeless people, you're gonna get people looking at you and saying, "Why are you doing that? Why are you?" Yeah. Yeah, it makes me sad, the way we treat people.
Thanks, Bernie.
Yeah. Did I see Jeffrey's hand? No? Bonnie's hand?
Thank you, Bernie. Is it okay? So I wanted to ask you about, I recently did a radical responsibility weekend with the Fleet Mall, and he reconnected me to your teachings, and I had attended for you in the early 90s, but I've been in the Shambhala path for a while and really struggling with their lack of social activism. So I reconnected with your teachings, and I came across this line in Infinite Circle: a Nazi putting a young child into the Auschwitz gas chamber is also prajna. So we can't look at prajna in terms of right and wrong, good and bad. And excuse my emotionality, but since some changes in the presidency in the United States, I've really struggled in my practice to feel kind. And I've had a lot of anger, and I think my social activism has taken a different kind of aspect, and I'm much more angry. And so I read that line, and it really hit me, and I really took time to kind of think about no enemy, in a sense. But it also doesn't feel, like, resistance feels right. So I kind of just want to ask you about that feeling of anger that comes up when I look at injustice and how to work with that.
Give me one note, the bare notes. I don't know if you all know, I also do clown work. And I find that that's very helpful. I've had some things, operations on my nose, so it's hard for me to put this is the nose I like. It's made in Barcelona by a group called Payasos Sin Frontier, Clowns Without Borders, but I don't know if I could put it on. It's my nose is well. Anyway, one of the things about this, it's important to have one and to put on a nose. Let's say you don't have one, and somebody is somebody who I think should have this all the time is our president of the United States, Trump. So for many things that he says, I visualize that he's wearing his nose while he's saying it. Makes it easier. In his case, he's probably wearing, I think, in my opinion, he's wearing a nose all the time. And what can I say? So no matter what they say, you put the nose on them, it changes it. You don't have to get so, you don't have to get too worried about it. It's just a person with the nose talking.
So I'm going to riff on that nose bit, Bernie. I read The Dude and the Zen Master, and that was my introduction to you. And I went out and got a nose, a red nose. And I realized that I know where it is, and I just don't pick it up and do anything with it. So this is a good prompt for me to come back to the nose. But my initial question is, it was clear to me, for whatever reason, my background, my long-standing practice of meditation, of not knowing. Bearing witness was clear for me, and that's what got me to participate in the retreat. I find that the transition to taking action, and the way you articulated it in the Dude book, was taking loving action. That was the hook for me, taking loving action. And I find that transition is the most challenging of the interdynamics of the three tenets. And I sometimes lose sight and question, is it the right action? Is it the appropriate action? Should there be more actions I'm taking? And that's where I get stuck. So that's my question. Any way to throw some light on that?
No, because if you call it as a right action, already that's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Any action, if it's not done from the status of not knowing and bearing action, any action is a correct action. It's not a question of, in order to determine whether it's right or wrong, you have to put a label and say, but I'm saying any label is a problem. Any label is a problem. But every action out of not knowing and bearing witness is right action. But I don't believe in the word right. It's the action, doing the action that arises out of not knowing and bearing witness. That's all. Our dualistic mind wants to fall back to, is it correct? I don't have that word in my vocabulary either. I don't have right or wrong, but I don't have correct and nor incorrect. So don't worry about whether the action is correct. Worry about are you doing it out of not knowing and bearing witness. Well, not easy. Therefore, that's where the practice comes. We have
Valerie.
Yes.
I'm back.
Jumping on the theme of the action, when you did your workshop, you asked us to beg in the street. We were not prepared, and that was the first time for me. And it was, of course, you told us a change in a sense that I was no longer, I came for the workshop to see how I could help others. And then when I find myself in begging, very little, after 6 minutes, I didn't know who was helping who, and I just felt connected. And at the end of the 2 days, I felt willingness of joy, just joy. Now in France, there is a lot of talk about rethinking the bodhisattva activism in the sphere of engaged Buddhism, and of course you're an example, but there is a question about making people engaging themselves in a social action if they would like to be engaged Buddhist. And I have a strong reaction to that, first with the word social, and by the fact that in my sense, it's counterproductive. I think what I understood from your protocol is that the action is coming naturally from the process of the two first, and that it has to come from joy and no separation with the other, which is not the other but becomes a brother. And if we ask people in name of a new Western engaged Buddhism to engage in social action, I feel again we're doing kind of other and us. We're helping the other, and I find very strange things going on nowadays in Buddhist discussion around social engagement. So I don't know what is my question, but I feel that social action is not needed as a term, as if it comes naturally as an action, and it is a social one, I guess. Something like that.
Yeah. Well, you answered it in a sense. People will ask me, what's the difference between a social action and a Buddhist social action? And for me, if the action is coming out of not knowing and bearing witness, then it's Buddhist social action. If the action is coming out of somebody telling me that's the wrong thing to do, that may be social action, but it's not Buddhist. And in fact, there's so many classes in colleges and universities that teach what is social action. For me, that's not it. That's you're saying, oh, I was taught to do such and such. It's got to come out of your heart, and it's got to come out of not knowing and bearing witness. Yeah, but it's still social action. Yeah.
Bernie, thank you. I wonder if this would be a good place to pause, because we're almost at our hour, which passed really fast, and I'm so glad you were able to stay with us.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired. So I don't know if I got a question from you, but I will excuse myself by saying I'm getting tired. Hope maybe you are also getting tired listening to stuff. But we got to figure out how to have more of this happening. And there are some people sitting in this room that would like to happen for them. How do I make this happen for 700 people? So that's his job, to figure that out. But I would like to see you more often.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Bernie, for giving us your time. And I also just want to say thank you for everybody who joined. And also thank you to those who were able to just donate and practice generosity that way. But the greatest generosity was just being here with Bernie. We've been trying to find ways to have him teach more, you know, after his stroke. And it's something that makes him so much alive and full of energy. So thank you, all of you, to just joining. And if there's any other questions or conversations that come after this, please feel free to use the membership platform in Bernie's room, where we post news about Bernie. Please feel free to keep asking questions. We can pass them to Bernie. He can answer them in text, or between all of you.
That's true. That room is all time, and you're invited to put questions, comments into the room, and I will get back to you. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to unmute so you can say goodbye to Bernie.
Thank you, Bernie.
Bye, Bernie. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
Bernie. Good to be with you.
Bye. Thank you.
To have you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.